Hey, what's happening, friends? Today's episode is brought to you in part by soundgirls.org, working to provide a network for women and non-binary people working in the professional audio industry. Soundgirls provides an opportunity to meet and network with other industry professionals, creating a strong support network while simultaneously providing the tools, knowledge, and support to further your career. Head over to soundgirls.org and become a member today.
What's happening, roadies? This is Byron Isaacs.
This is Tana Douglas.
What's happening, roadies? This is Steph Paynes, and you are listening to Roadie Free Radio.
What's up, roadies? My name is Larry Milburn, and this is Roadie Free Radio, your VIP pass to meet and greet the stars behind the scenes of the music and film business. All right. What is happening, roadies? How are we doing? Welcome. This is your host, Larry Milburn, and I am coming at you from a barn in Northwest Connecticut. This is Roadie Free Radio, and we are looking at episode 170. My guest today is Miss Steph Paynes, guitarist and founder of the band Lez Zeppelin. Before we get to her, how are you guys doing? I'm recording this on May 9th. That would be the day before Mother's Day. We're going to get to Mother's Day in just a second, but guess what? In the Northeast, wherever I live, northwest corner of Connecticut, it was snowing today. May 9th, people. Snowing. What is the deal? Okay, that's not right. That's not humanly possible. It's not humanly acceptable for it to be snowing today. Last week, it was like 70 degrees. I was sitting by the beach last Sunday. Today, I'm all bundled up, sitting in the barn here, all bundled, still burning the heat, still burning some oil, spending money on the heat. Not good. How are you guys? Hey, if you are just checking us out for the first time here, I want to thank you guys for stopping by. It means a lot. So welcome. Come on back to the back of the bus here. We're going to sit down. We're going to have a great chat today with a good friend of mine, Miss Steph Paynes. Man, if you like guitars, if you like Zeppelin, if you like Jimi Hendrix, this is going to be a good episode for you. Taking a break. We're not interviewing a roadie today. We're going to interview an artiste of the guitar. For those of you that are returning to the show, thank you so much for coming back. It really, really touches my heart. It means a lot. I wish I could reach out and hug you, but I can't because I'm wearing a mask. I got gloves on. I'm all suited up for the corona. Tired of this. I'm tired of this shit. How are you guys? I'm tired of this shit, man. You know, it's enough already. It's enough. This is a cold. It's a common cold. I know people are getting sick, but to put the people at risk in a house somewhere with some good tunes, keep them safe, keep the baby safe, and the rest of us get on out in the world and get crack-a-lackin'. All right? Man, it's enough. It's enough already. Hey, thank you for stopping by the Apple Podcast iTunes situation and leaving me a review. It means a lot. I've thanked you guys before for this. Really means a lot. If you have done that and you've left a comment, good on you. I appreciate it. It means a lot to me. Those folks that haven't popped over and left me a comment or a rating, that's okay. Maybe you got 5 seconds while you're sitting around your house, cleaning your house for the umpteenth time during the corona, and you could just leave me a little review, a little, a couple stars. I'll take a 2-star. That's okay. It's something. Maybe a comment. And that would mean a lot. It's good stuff. Listen, we got happy birthdays, folks. Steve Katz, founding member of the Blues Project and Blood, Sweat, and Tears. Steve Katz has been on the show way back in the first year he was on the show, and I appreciate that. So happy birthday to you, Steve. Speaking real quick of birthdays and being way back in the first year of the show, you know what's happening next weekend? You want to hear something crazy, man? May 16th, friends. Holy shit, I can't believe I'm about to tell you this because it's crazy to me that we're going. May 16th marks 4 years of doing the podcast, the Podkizzy, Roadie Free Radio. 4 years I've been doing this show. 4 years you've been tuning in every week to check out these awesome interviews. Whew. I'm going to save the fanfare and the tears until next week, but just suffice it to say, it gets me choked up. All right, gets me choked up. Speaking of getting choked up, Little Richard died. 87 years old, man. Rest in peace, Little Richard. I used to listen to a lot of Chuck Berry and Little Richard when I was a wee young man, and had a great mixtape of the two of them going back and forth. It was awesome. Little Richard. As well, Andre Harrell, music executive who discovered P. Diddy. He died. He was 56 years old. Here's a curveball I'm throwing you too. Roy Horn of Siegfried and Roy. He died of coronavirus at 75 years old. Crazy stuff going on out there. Crazy stuff going on. All right. Happy Mother's Day. I said it last week, man. If it weren't for the women, none of us would be here, clearly. And, if it weren't for a lot of the women in our lives, a lot of us would not be here. We wouldn't be good boys and girls. So to all the mamas out there, I wish you a happy, happy Mother's Day. And I hope that you were treated appropriately on Mother's Day. Okay. You want to know what my gift to my wife was? She requested this, and I followed through. I'm going to follow through. I'm recording this the day before Mother's Day, so I'm gonna hope that I follow through. She wants my cell phone turned off and stuck in a drawer where only she can get to it. You want to get to Milburn on Mother's Day? You got to call the landline. No texting, no email checking, no worky work behind the scenes, nothing. Okay, that means I'm going to be up tonight getting this episode done. Out it goes. And that's cool. I can grant her a day where I don't check my phone 17,000 fucking times to see who's written or what's going on out there in the world. So happy Mother's Day. I love you all. Have you guys seen the recent video I did up on YouTube or on our Facebook or on our Instagram account about Crew Nation? Crew members are the backbone of our industry. That's you guys, man. And with COVID-19 putting concerts on pause, Live Nation is extending a helping hand by creating the Crew Nation Fund, a global relief fund for live music crews. Live Nation is matching all donations dollar for dollar up to $5 million. I did a video about this. It's making the rounds. People are donating. I'm super psyched. A lot of brands that I reached out to are reposting it. They're doing something about it. Really means a lot. So check out the video. Give a few bucks if you can over to Crew Nation. I'm looking into doing something with Music Cares as well. So keep an eye out for that sort of a thing. Also, I mentioned last week, and it's coming up, it's ending on my 4-year anniversary, May 16th. Liz Shaw of Recording Studio Rockstars, he is hosting a live webinar with Grammy-winning engineer Craig Alvin, who did Casey Musgraves' The Golden Hour. It was Album of the Year in 2020. He's going to do it from Craig's mixing studio on May 16th so he can teach his exact step-by-step mixing system. This is the same method that Craig uses every time to mix award-winning records. He's going to reveal a detailed breakdown of his complete step-by-step mixing system, including a mix demo followed by a Q&A. You're going to have an opportunity to ask this dude, a Grammy-winning engineer, questions that you want all about recording and mixing, okay? And there's a lot of bonus courses in there that Liz has added. So check it out. I got a link in the show notes of this show. If you go to roadiefreeradio.com, look up this episode with Steph Paynes, you will see the link in the show notes. You got to check it out. Also in the show notes this week, I'm putting a link to an article with Michael Dorf from City Winery, just talking about how all this stuff, this COVID stuff is, affecting the City Winery and this gentleman's view on how things are going to pan out afterward. If you guys have jumped at all into the live stream world and perhaps you want to try some gear, or, you're finally getting outside, you're a photographer, a video person, whatever it is, you want to try out some stuff, check out lensrentals.com, man. They are sponsoring today's show. They are the largest online rental provider for photography, videography, and lighting equipment and accessories in the United States. They carry camera bodies and lenses in every format from every major manufacturer and all the audio, lighting, and support accessories needed to cover any kind of a shoot, from a family holiday card to a commercial advertising job. All equipment purchased is sold within 2 years, so customers are assured that their stock is always in like-new condition. And I'm telling you, they got killer customer service, man. I have left a camera base plate, a tripod base plate on a camera. I sent it back, and I called them, and I was like, hey, I left this thing. Can you get it for me? Boom, boom, boom. It was back here in no time. Really great stuff. Things ship in Pelican cases. They are protected. Good stuff. So check it out. If you use the code RODIE15, that's capital letters, RODIE, the number 15, at lensrentals.com, you get 15% off your entire order. Here's the other bonus I can tell you about them. At least once, if not twice a month, they are sending out killer discounts, just like my coupon. So you could get a lot of cash off an order while you're trying out some gear. It's very cool. So head over to lensrentals.com. Check it out. Steph Paynes is our guest this week. I'm super excited. I met Steph through Nightbob. Nightbob has been doing front of house for Lez Zeppelin, the all-girl, all-female rock and roll Led Zeppelin homage group. I'm not going to call them a tribute band. All right. To call Lez Zeppelin a tribute band would be to cheapen the musical prowess that these ladies put forth in your face, okay? Because let me tell you something. This shit rocks. I tell Steph in this thing, I've told her before that, you know, when I first checked them out, I was blown away. It's like a female reinterpretation of Led Zeppelin, and they can fucking play, man. They can play. I saw them for the first time at a sold-out Gramercy Theater show in the midst of New York City, and the place was packed, sold out, with a string section. It was marvelous. Then I saw them at the, where was that? Fairfield Theater, the Warehouse, whatever that place is called, down in Fairfield, Connecticut. Another killer show, just the band, no string section, just straight up, straight ahead, in your face, rock and roll. If you are a fan of Led Zeppelin, you got to check it out. By the way, this is the only Led Zeppelin band, Led Zeppelin, I don't know, homage band, whatever you want to call it, that Jimmy Page endorses. All right, guy's been to their show. He's seen it. He gave him the thumbs up. The dude's in. Okay, so this is the thing. Steph and I go deep. We're talking about the COVID, obviously. She's been hanging out in Long Island for the last few weeks. We go deep into her roots of starting Led Zeppelin, being a writer, that kind of stuff. She's got two Jimmys in her life that she's been infatuated with, that she's learned from. One, obviously, is Jimmy Page, and the other is Jimi Hendrix. And we go deep into how she just unlocks someone's playing when she gets to know them. She's got a secret sauce in order to do that. We had a good time, Steph and I. This was a great interview, and I was humbled enough that I had an opportunity to create a promo video for them that, of course, I put out right before all this shit went down. So they will be back touring, and you got to go see them. I also want to let you guys know that we are sponsored finally today by ShowPro Beard Co. Now, ShowPro Beard Co. was started by live audio engineer Chris Wilson, the audio wizard. He is known as on YouTube. He and his wife have created their very own unique formula of beard balm that not only performs well in terms of health and nourishment, but also provides the control, shine, and pleasant aroma that any bearded professional would appreciate. These are non-waxy, all-natural beard balms that will leave your beard soft, smooth, and nourished. Choose from a variety of natural smelling scents like Home Sweet Home, Morning Wood, Through the Woods, Chain Motor Oil, and of course, original unscented. Use the code RODIE to get 20% off your entire order. That is 20% off your entire order when you use the code RODIE over at ShowPro Beard Co. All right, kids, let's do this, man. Let us get to the interview with Steph Paynes. I think you're going to dig it because I dug it. So here we go with Miss Steph Paynes.
Hit it. Call yourself a roadie. Call yourself a roadie. Call yourself a roadie.
I've been out here I was out here for about 5 weeks straight. Mostly because we felt it was safer than being in the middle of New York City.
Yeah.
Which is probably true.
Yeah.
But now I've been sort of going back to my apartment, a couple of days, coming back here a couple of days. And there's nobody in my apartment. So it's just me. So it's pretty safe to travel back and forth. I just get in the car, park it in the street in front of my apartment, go in, stay there for 2 days, don't come out, and then come back out.
Wow.
Go back, and that's it.
And what did you grab when you knew you were leaving? What instruments came with you?
Okay, so right now it's been multiplying.
I'm sure your friends love it.
I now have my Martin guitar. I have my Epiphone Wildcat.
Whoa.
I have a Strat. I have a bass.
Wow.
I have a mandolin. I have 3 little amplifiers. I mean, it's just like it started small. Trust me.
Oh my God! What amplifiers?
Well, because see, I did. I did another online thing yesterday.
Yeah.
So I played a few things online, and because it was visual. I mean, I don't know if I should do that. So you could probably just play a record; it'd be better. But so I brought this little thing.
Oh, sure, the little Marshall amp thing. I love those.
Which is great.
Yeah.
And I have a pig nose. Remember that?
Oh yeah, those are great.
I have that, and then just in case, I had a little Roland Cube.
Oh my God! So you came with a little mini kit. I thought maybe you'd have like a little Princeton or something like that.
You would think.
Yeah.
But crap. But then I also have to do some recording because the girls were trying to, oh my God, it's like we're trying to just do one song in this Zoom style,
Yeah.
Where you have to record the tracks first.
Yep.
It is a monumental pain in the ass.
Yeah.
And then you have to record the video. And then someone has to put it all in. And it's just been, I can't tell you how many messages have gone back and forth between the 4 of us. Maybe 2,000 at this point. It just seems to be the mission impossible. But, I started it all by doing a track and sending it off. It's just, so anyway, I'm set up to record some stuff if I need to.
Is it a Zeppelin track?
Yes.
What is the track?
Interestingly, what we did is, I don't know if you remember this or even know about this, but somebody found the individual tracks to Led Zeppelin 2 about, this might be 8 years ago, something like that. And they were going around. I think actually Richie Fleegler sent them to me. Do you know Richie?
Yeah, he's been on the show.
Yeah, I think Richie sent them to me, actually. I have to check with him on that. But I have them, right?
Yeah.
So, and I always loved listening to them because you can truly hear what they're doing. And the one in particular that I love is Ramble On, because when you listen to that, you just hear what JPJ is doing with the bass, and it drives the whole track, right? But when you isolate it, it's just, it's so great. So I decided we were going to do Ramble On. Mm-hmm. So I thought, why not put my guitar track to the guys?
Sounds good.
So I made a copy of that on a different GarageBand, track, and I recorded over it my own acoustic guitar part, listening to John Bonham doing this and Jimmy playing. And I recorded another track along with Jimmy, And it's so interesting because, so Bonham now is the click, right?
Yeah.
Now, of course, as everybody knows, Led Zeppelin were, the greatest band in the world, and they were a 70s band, and nobody played to click tracks. And the beautiful thing about this music is that it moves a little left and right. It gets a little faster, a little slow. It's just feel thing all the time. So this track is not a click track. it gets faster, right?
Yeah.
And then it gets slower, you know? So I'm playing along with this and really feeling that. So then there starts problem number one. I'm sending it to the girls and they're like, wait a minute, you know, where's the click? I can't do this without, you know, and a million messages, which I just, you know, well, we finally figured it out, but it was just so funny to actually play along with the guys.
Yeah, that's so cool. A little dream come true, I imagine.
Kinda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was it like when you met him, Jimmy? Well, you met him and John Paul Jones, right?
Yeah. I met them all.
Yeah.
I mean, I even met Jason once, but that doesn't count. John Paul Jones I met first. And, you know, he is just the anti-rock star. John Paul Jones is just a complete and utter true musician, period. There's no pretense. There's no intimidation. He's just a nice guy, you know, and it's all about the music. And so I met him right after the O2 performance. I thought I might meet Jimmy that night too, but I was at that performance, amazingly. And we were at one of the after parties. You know, there were several, and they were on several different levels of importance. But the one I was at, Dave Grohl was there. I met Dave Grohl, and we were rushing together. Oh, he's the biggest Zeppelin fan in the world.
Yeah.
And he had heard of Lez Zeppelin, which was amazing to me. But I met him, and I met a couple of other people, some of like people you would probably know that I don't, that were either roadie guys or tech guys.
Yeah.
That had worked for Zeppelin for a long time. And John Paul Jones walked in. And so we had a mutual friend who came and introduced me to him. And John Paul Jones was like, oh, Lez Zeppelin, I would love, dying to see you guys play. But at which point I nearly fainted because, you know, he was telling me that he wanted to see my band. You know, it was just surreal. So it was really super nice. But Jimmy was a whole other thing. Jimmy was, you know, the guy, he's my guy, you know?
Yeah.
And it was one of those long-awaited moments in life when I finally get to, you know, I didn't know whether we would both spontaneously combust if we were in the same room. Or what the hell would happen? But I met him, when was this? This would have been maybe 2012 or 2013, I think, actually. After the premiere of Celebration Day. So they had just, you know, so there was the show in 2007 and it took 5 years and they finally released the film.
Yeah.
And they were having premieres around different major cities. And in New York, it was at the Ziegfeld. And last minute, I got a ticket to go, literally an hour before, which was probably good because I couldn't worry about it. I couldn't wash my hair. I couldn't just spend 5 days worrying about what I was going to wear or anything. It was just like, go.
Yeah.
So I ran down and got to see the film, which was great. And, you know, they were all there in the room.
Oh
so that was enough. That alone would have been enough. Like Jimmy's sitting like 5 rows behind me, you know. And you have to understand, I had not met him yet.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So this was sort of.
But you'd been doing the band for like almost 10 years at that point.
Oh yeah, and
yeah.
Jimmy, I knew he knew about the band. I mean, he had been actually even advising us on Led Zeppelin 1 through the producer.
Right, through Eddie Kramer.
Well, not through Eddie.
Okay.
This is the second album after that.
Okay.
Eddie was, you know, did not have contact with Jimmy with us at that point. But the second album we did was with a guy who was good friends with Jimmy and had a studio. So this guy was calling him up and asking, hey, Jimmy, what guitar did you use on this and that? Which, you know,
wow.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But we...
did you ever just want to be like, look, just hand me the phone real quick. I'll ask him.
Yeah, that's funny. You should ask that because...
I can do this easier. Just give me the phone, dude.
Oh, believe me, Larry, this is funny. I mean, to be honest with you, this guy would do it in front of me all the time.
Jesus.
And not hand me the phone.
Right.
And I would hear Jimmy on the phone, and you have to understand, it was actually cruel.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen once, it happened a lot of times. But it was kind of cruel because there was Jimmy, and I could have just said hi.
Yeah, appreciate the help, man.
And glad you're helping, and whatever I would have said. But it was like sitting there across the table watching this conversation. So no, I had not, got to ask him myself. So anyway, after the, I'm sorry, I'm being so long-winded.
No, it's good.
But after the film, there was an after party, and a friend, one of the people in our group sort of took off his badge and said, Steph, you need to meet Jimmy here. Literally. It was the nicest thing like in the world. Because you have to meet him. Just take this and go. So as it turned out, we grabbed each, we all went and we all got in, which was nice. So it wasn't an either or. But it was a great, little after party at the Monkey Bar in New York. And about an hour into it, Jimmy comes in, and Robert comes in and all this. And, there's a whole gang. Meanwhile, I was like getting drunk with Joan Jett at the bar, I mean, it was just like this amazing. And Stevie Nicks was somewhere in the back. I mean, it was just crazy, right? And Joan is very nice, by the way. We actually had a great conversation about women in music and women players. And yeah, it was really totally cool. Very interesting. So Jimmy walks in. And the hive begins to close, everyone is like rushes toward, the front. And this friend who had taken his pass off grabbed me and said, we better get to him before becomes an untouchable and you'll never get through. So I'm just at this point, Yeah,
you're just going for it.
So he and pulled me and this producer friend of ours, said, hi, Jimmy, by the way, this is Steph from Lez Zeppelin. And Jimmy sort of turns around and it takes there's a brief pause. And then this sort of, oh, well, hello, it's about time, complete recognition. Hi, it's about time we've met. And we embrace, this is right. And the whole world disappears, right? Everyone disappeared and it was just me and Jimmy, and it was just this, I couldn't have dreamt it better.
Yeah.
But, and then I was saying this last night, the funny moment was that, and I had no idea what I would say to him. I was not prepared, which is great. This was the best way because suddenly I just came, I was like, Jimmy, I just have to tell you, Jimmy, it's really hard being you. And he just sort of looked at me and goes, yeah, I know. He goes, it is. And I go, it is. It's really hard. He goes, it is. We just laughed. It was like, because it was just this, being Jimmy is really hard.
Yeah.
Not just the
Someone's got to do it.
Every way. It was hard.
Someone's got to do it, man.
Someone's got to do it. So we had this moment. It was really beautiful. And we, he's told me how much, he thought the band was great and we were stunning and I was nearly dropped to the floor. And then I got to tell him how much his music meant and how much love it brought into my life and all this. So, for me to be able to just do that alone was, a dream come true, that I could just tell him face to face what it all meant. Yeah.
But then he's come to a show.
Oh, yeah. But then he came around the room and someone else dragged me over to introduce me. And I was like, no, we've already met. It's okay. And Jimmy was sort of like, yeah. And then he just sidled up and we talked one-on-one for another half an hour. Like he was interested in talking to me, which was great. And I, of course, and then we talked about England and blah, 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 blah. And I said, oh, we'll come to England. He goes, yeah, I meant to come to this show or that. And that's when I booked a tour of England. And that's
fuck it. I'm going to book a show now.
It was a huge leap and it was expensive, but it was worth every minute. I called some promoter who'd been trying to get me to go there for nothing. And within a half an hour, he'd booked the Isle of Wight and a London show. And I had to say yes.
Wow.
Done. So
how many gigs did you do over there?
We did like, I don't know, like 4.
Okay.
4 5 gigs.
I imagine they were well received, but I
Yeah.
imagine probably at first with some sort of like, let's see what these birds got, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
then I'm sure you won them over. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
the thing about you guys that struck me before we even met, before I came to that Gramercy show through Night Bob, was I was watching some video on the site. That obviously the first thing, and then I went down a little rabbit hole there and watched some more, and immediately it was like, oh, this isn't your average sort of tribute band that's doing it all note for note, and it just sounds like a record or whatever. It's like you guys reinterpret it. You stay true to it, but you reinterpret it your own way. It's as if you wrote the songs, right? And then this feminine energy behind it, which is tremendous. And then you go see it live, and you're like, oh my God, it's like just this badass fucking rock and roll band.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
And there's no gimmickry behind it. You know, there's no electronic backing thing, right? It's you, the guitar, the amp.
It's old fashioned, feedback, turn the amp around. It's too loud, 70s, Night Bob. I mean, there were so many funny things, I mean, it just is what it is. Well, Night Bob's a guy that, he loves that. I mean, believe me, I've had sound guys in Europe, in Germany in particular, who don't like that. Right. And even though they're older guys, they just want everything clean, and they want, what you would call it, those, sound, you're going to have to edit this out, but what is it,
there's no editing in this show, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
This is straight to tape. This is like one of your shows, man. It's just straight out there.
Man, you're the best editor though, Larry.
Hell no.
Just sort of sound imaging, I guess is what you call it. You get those, something you can just plug in. What's the name of that amp?
Like a modeling amp.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Modeling. That's the word I'm looking for. So right, you get the actual tone out of the strings, the humbucker, and the amp, and what that's putting out, right? And noisy echoplex, and it's really, it feeds back. It's sometimes it's difficult, and sometimes you have to make it so low that you're losing your tone and you're complaining, and it's hard. But I mean, it's kind of that's the gig,
Yeah, right. Now,
when it's right.
And what made you sort of go into it? When you went into it, did you think, all right, if I'm going to do this thing, we're not going to, be a band that just plays it straight in terms of, copying every lick and all that kind of stuff? What did you have that from the onset? What was your game plan? Did you have a game plan? We're like, oh, this would just be fun to do. And now we're 16 years later.
That's kind of it.
Yeah.
I mean, the game plan, I think, was a bit subconscious and a bit conscious. It was both, but it definitely developed as I went along, and had to make decision after decision. So, for example, when I first started the band, it was totally to get my rocks off playing Zeppelin and to get my licks, to work my chops around. I was into Jimmy's playing. I was totally appreciative of it in a brand new way. And I just wanted to dive in and have fun and really play this sort of visceral rock and roll. I was in the mood,
Yeah.
So once I decided to really go ahead with it, the first thing happened, which is that who the hell's going to be in the band? Uh-oh. Where am I going to find 3 other people, all women? Because that was a sort of subconscious, decision that was I didn't know why. I thought it'd be more fun to be women, but of course it makes all the difference. It just, in every way, it was just much more fun and much more novel and much more interesting, right?
Yeah.
In ways I didn't even realize until I was into it. But, it was really hard to find people to play. So it was just a word of mouth thing, But I think that as I sort of picked girls for the band and, and this has happened with every lineup, really. You can't just it can't just be someone who can only play. And it can't be somebody who only looks good. Or it can't be somebody who's got this kind of, it has to be so many things. And I think that was number one, which maybe set us off from the beginning. You don't just grab, I can play this, I'm a pretty good player, and let's just practice it and see. If you're the wrong drummer, if you don't have the right feel, if you don't understand what it is that Bonham was really doing, then you're not the right. It doesn't matter how good you are.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You could be the greatest drummer and not get it.
Right. Well, again, it goes back to like, you can play the song as it's played,
right?
But you guys don't just do that. Right.
Right. So I think that
you have to interpret it. You have to know what it is. You have to at least know. It's like a filmmaker having a shot list, right? You make your shot list and you always can fall back on that. But then around that, you have to leave room to walk on the set or walk on a location and be like, oh, fuck the shot list. I'm going to do this. But I always have this thing I can go back to. Right. That's how I sort of look at it. It's like,
right. I mean, and in a way, it's like there are the basics, which is, master the song as it is on the record with the right people who have the depth to play it. And of course, have a certain appeal. You can't just throw, it is rock and roll. It is visual. It is a sexy thing, Are you hearing birds?
I don't know. Well, I hear your birds, but I think because it's nice, everything because I'm in my barn studio, I think that everything that's been dormant for this fucking winter is starting to come out. So like literally I'm working in here this morning and I see something and it's a mouse runs by my and it runs over here, scales this black curtain that I have covering a window so I can film in here. I got him out of here. And now I'm hearing something back up over here in this stone wall, and that's freaking me out. I'm deathly afraid of snakes. And
really?
I'm terrified that one day I'm going to come in and the snakes are going to start coming out of the stone wall. I don't know why I have that thing. Anyway.
Yeah, you've watched
oh, God.
Yeah, I don't think snakes are going to come out of the wall.
You don't think so?
No.
All right.
I don't think that's what they do. I think that's only in Indiana Jones they do that.
I've just been telling my 4-year-old, or almost 5 now, about Indiana Jones, and I can't wait to play. I even asked my wife, and I was like, "Is it too soon to play him Raiders of the Lost Ark? You think the face melting scene is going to totally scar him for life?" She's like, "Yeah, dude, we're not quite at Raiders yet." I'm like, "Okay,
right.
All right,
yeah." It's great. I love it.
So good.
But yeah, that's where the snakes come out of the line. They don't really do that. If you were in the swamp,
right.
Are you in the swamp?
I'm not in the swamp. Are you a snake person? You seem to talk with authority.
I'm not. No, but I'm just trying to make you feel better.
Thanks. So who's been in the band the longest with you, Lisa?
Yeah.
How long? When did she start?
The least likely person has been in the band the longest.
The least likely. Why is she the least likely?
Just because it was a rocky start. Let's put it that way.
All right.
Lisa came. I don't know. Lisa, if you are mystical at all, then you would have to say that Lisa and I were just. She was sent to me, and she came in a little woven basket floating down the Nile. And I had to sort of nurse her to adulthood. No, but Lisa lived in Texas, she, and the band lineup before she joined had just kind of, went poof into the air. That's a whole long story. You have to read the book for that one. But, so Lisa, I called Lisa out of the blue, and, she was driving a truck in Houston somewhere. And the only reason I had her number is because she had come to one of our shows in Houston when we toured there in like 2008. And our then manager had a friend who brought her to the show or told her about it. And Lisa came up to the manager after the show or during and said, I love this band. I love this band. He goes, but I got to tell you, I could play it better. So, after, this other lineup went away, this manager said, well, there was this girl in Houston. I don't know. You might want to call her. She said she could do it better. I said, all right, well, I'm grabbing at straws. Give me your number. So I tried to find her on the internet and didn't find much. But then I found some hidden thing of her playing. I don't know. I had to dig deep, and there was some little gigs with her playing, and it was only a snippet of it. And in that little snippet, I could see how good she was. It just, all I needed was a few seconds.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at this and thinking, she's right. She's better. She's actually is better. Like, her swing was just like, so I called her up, and she answers the phone, and she tells me later that she nearly drove off the road because I was like, hi, this is Steph from Lez Zeppelin. She was just like, oh, not that, I was such a big deal. It's just that she was in Texas driving a truck, and she had liked the band, and there I was calling her out of the blue, So we talked for about a half an hour. She pulled over, and she decided, please just give me a chance. I said, well, can you get to New York? And she did. She flew into New York. And all I could tell you, Larry, and she would vouch for this, but when she showed up, I was trying to vet everybody and just say, you don't do drugs, right? You don't drink, right? No, I don't drink. I don't do any of that. She got off the plane, and she was going to stay with me for a day or two. And she calls me from the airport, and she says, listen, I got a really bad toothache. You have any alcohol in the house? She wasn't even in the cab yet. And it was like, it was just that kind of thing. But, we'd been through a lot together. Anyway, we stayed up all night. We, I think we drank a bottle of scotch. I don't know what we did, but we talked about Captain Beefheart.
Yeah,
we
just getting the influences.
We had a lot to share. And, of course, I said, listen, I don't want any grief, right? You're not going to cause any trouble. Oh, no. Of course, all it was trouble after that for like the first. No, I love Lisa to death. She would laugh if she's listening. I hope she listens. She is
a monster player. And I think that's part of that thing is like to pull off some of this music. Like it's like going to see a really good Beatles band or a Stones thing, right? Like there's certain things, or even an AC/DC, you see cover bands. It's like, if you're going to tackle this particular song, there are certain parts of it you better bring. And if you don't bring them, then the whole thing's fucked, right?
I couldn't agree more.
And so in your instance, though, it's like the rhythm section alone has got to be, it's got to be there. And the powerhouse as well that Joan is.
Yeah.
Little compact little
I know.
Box there is unbelievable.
Well, this is the thing, when I started the band, as I was beginning to tell you, I realized really quickly, who am I, like a complete moron? Am I a total idiot? Like, who do I think I am? I'm trying to play the music of the greatest rock band, or certainly top three, whatever. I don't want to have the debate with anyone, but they are legends. But not only that, they're the greatest individual musicians on their own, who have now come together to create something even bigger than who they are individually. But you need those parts. You need that musical intelligence and skill and feel and personality. If you don't have one of those things, it falls flat. It is flamboyant. It is in your face. It is sexual. It is all those things. You need those elements.
Right.
Now, I think you need them. that was what we getting back to your original question, because all along the way, I got more and more serious and more intense about keeping those authentic things. I didn't want to sacrifice any of them. And it's hard, you know? I mean, and then there was the whole tribute band business thing, which I didn't really know what a tribute band was. I'm really being honest. It sounds stupid, but I really had never been in one. I didn't know there was this scene of tribute bands. I'd never been to see a tribute band. I mean, I was like a babe in the woods here. I was like, and somebody else from another Led Zeppelin tribute band, some other one, wrote to me and said, "Hey, welcome here. You should join our site, tribute bands." You know, and I sort of went, "Huh?" And then I went to the site and I was like, "Are you kidding me? I'm not like, this is what we're doing." And I got really frightened at that point. And I made it a point. I was like, "No, we're not doing, this is not who we are. This is not what I'm doing. I have no intention of doing this." And so I steered clear of it from the beginning. Which is probably why, that we were encouraged. Once we learned the material, the key thing was to really play it with all our hearts and not to play it like impersonators.
Yeah.
It's a big difference.
How much rehearsal do you guys do outside of gigs? Or at this point, is it sound check and you go?
No, well, it depends. I mean, we do rehearse. Not as often as, of course, we would like. It's impossible to get all of us into one room at the same time these days, just schedule-wise. But we are always adding songs. And for example, the last show we did was all of Physical Graffiti. Mm-hmm. That needed a lot of rehearsal because there were a bunch of songs we'd never played. And just putting them all together required a lot of work. So when we're doing stuff like that, we definitely rehearse,
Yeah.
And if it's super busy and on the road, then we try to get it into sound check or something. But
yeah. And Marlene's been with you guys how long?
3 years.
3 years.
I know.
She's pretty fantastic herself, man. It's a great lineup. And if anyone listening who has not seen the show, you got to go as soon as we can, whenever the hell that's going to be, right?
When is that? Larry, when is that?
I don't know.
I
don't know.
Yeah.
Let's not go down that rabbit hole. That's depressing. That's depressing.
You just have to be positive.
Exactly.
Actually, Mike Bob sent me a funny thing today about these special gig suits that you can wear. They come with a helmet, and they're antibacterial, and you can clean them off. And if everybody wears one, you can come to the most crowded gig in the world. It'd be fine.
Wow.
So we're going to have to see if we can get those into the merch stores.
I just read the thing, I don't know if you saw this yet, about JetBlue is now requiring face masks on flights and possibly in airports and everything, which, certainly kind of makes sense, but whole new world, man.
Yeah.
Whole new world. Now, this was not your main gig. You're also a writer. Are you still writing?
Well, I'm not really doing rock journalism the way I did many moons ago. Mm-hmm. But, I keep threatening. I have written a novel, and I've mostly finished 2 others. And I've had this, goal and desire to start another one ASAP and to get back into that. So now that I've been, sitting at a red light waiting for the next gig to happen, I'm starting to write again, and hopefully I'd love to get back into that.
Yeah.
Even to write, for myself.
Do you get out and play much with other people?
Occasionally.
Or the Zap thing is your thing?
Well, I'm so busy with this thing because I sort of have been running it. And I believe we have a new team coming on to help me with that, which would be, oh my God, so welcome and so overdue. And hopefully if that happens, then I'll have a little more time to do other stuff. But I've done some sessions here and there, and I love doing that. That's great. getting out to play every once in a while, but not a lot. I mean, most of the time, if we're busy, it's that, but I've been trying to balance it with other stuff.
Yeah.
So, not too much. Not that I wouldn't welcome it. I'd love it.
I mean, when you were hanging out with Joan Jett, where you're like, Joan, listen.
Yeah.
Hey, you want me to get up there? That would be amazing.
That would be great. Joan, if you're listening. Actually, Joan and I, when I was mentioned, we were talking. I was saying, hey, Joan, you should play some Zap or something. And she said she goes, are you kidding? I can't play that stuff. She goes, She's like, it's too much work. Or whatever. She was like, no, I'm not playing that. It was very funny. But, she was talking even now, like, she is, what an incredible career she's had and what inroads she's made all by herself.
Yeah.
But she still faces a whole bunch of sexism out there, she told me. Still.
Wow.
She walks on stage. She gets it,
Yeah. Yeah.
From crew, sound guy, everybody, the audience.
Yeah.
It must be nice, though, as to have a band of women. So at least you're in it together. You have each other's backs.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. We're sort of, we're very casual about this stuff. We kind of laugh at it. We don't really care anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, the days of sort of griping about that stuff, it's much more fun to watch the reactions of people like that when they've tried to instruct you and then they realize, oh, okay. Wow. I wasn't expecting that.
Right.
That's for us.
Yeah.
But yeah, we all have stories of, being in fans will come up and they'll say, oh my God, you play better than I do. Like, because he's a man,
Right, right.
And I'll say, oh, like, are you a professional guitar player? No. I go, oh, it's just because he's male.
Yeah.
And yet I can play better than him. It's just funny, It's funny. Fun.
I'm glad you can laugh about some of it. When did this affair with the guitar start for you?
Oh gosh, almost out of the womb, basically, but pretty early.
Did you have musical parents?
Well, sort of. I mean, my mother played the piano. She was pretty good. I mean, not like a professional musician, but she was pretty good. And there were a lot of musicians in my extended family, like my father's family, his aunts and uncles, and there was a lot of heavy duty musicality, sort of prodigiousness there. But we didn't, and my brother wanted the violin too when he grew up. So we had the musical gene somewhere. But it wasn't like we were in a musical or classical music family per se. There was always music in the house. Always. I was listening to Django Reinhardt from day one.
Wow.
In the little baby stroller.
Yeah.
Being my dad loved Django more than anything.
And you grew up in Manhattan?
No, I grew up in Long Island.
On the island? Where in Long Island?
Well, I guess I should admit it. No, I grew up in Great Neck.
Okay.
Which is, it's grown on me over the years.
Where in Long Island are you now? Are you back in your hometown?
I am in Great Neck at a friend's house, but not in my house. But I rode over to my mother's house today. Okay. So she's still living in that house.
Wow.
But it's the other side of town.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's an interesting place to grow up. It's intense.
It's intense.
The school systems were very good, so I'm thankful for. I can appreciate that now.
So when did you pick up the instrument and start playing?
6.
6 years old.
Yeah.
And what do you remember? Some of the besides Django, like do you remember some of the other stuff you started 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 when you get into there? Like what are you listening to?
I definitely did not play Django Reinhardt when I was 6. But if I did, I would be like, famous. Oh gosh, I really wanted a guitar because I liked all those British Invasion guys, Clapton, and I was a big Cream fan and stuff. I don't know. I had older cousins and like the brothers of my friends across the street. They had all the records and things.
Yeah.
And so I somehow I was probably liked the covers and then put them on or something, whatever it was. But I loved it, and I loved Eric Clapton's playing, and I was just smitten.
Did you start early trying to figure those licks out?
Not quite at 6. I started
not at
with
6. I mean, later. But
yeah. Well, I first thing I did was, I got a guitar for my 6th birthday, and I was all excited. And I fiddled around with it a little, and then I kind of put it down. I played the piano, put it down. Then I picked it up again about 8 or 9, and I don't know. My cousin taught me a few chords, and it was easy for me. Like within a day or two, I pretty much got it. So I wasn't frustrated by it. I could pretty quickly get the chord, and then within a week I was changing the chord. So that was encouraged,
Yeah.
And then basically I just I play by ear. I could play by ear. Mm-hmm. So if I could hear something, I could imitate it. So that was also a big help. And that really is the way I play to this day. Like I don't really read music very much.
Yep.
A little bit. I can read chord charts. But most of the time, and I can read some tab, but it takes me forever. Sometimes I use tab to just check my ears. And most of the time the tab is wrong. But anyway, sometimes I use it. But I just copy. That's really it.
Did you start playing in bands in high school?
Yeah, but jazz bands. So it's to get back. Yeah, so I played. I got into folk, and I got into just playing Beatles songs, stuff like that, stuff with chords. Whatever songs I could figure out and play. But then at about age 13, maybe something like that, I went to this summer guitar program out in Long Island, which was this all-day thing for the summer. You'd go. It was like a guitar institute, but it was an early version of it.
Yeah.
I signed up for all the folk classes and stuff, and finger picking, and stuff that you're supposed to do. And then on the first day, all the teachers gave a concert, and we sat, the students, and each one gave a concert, and the last guy to go was this jazz guy. And he got up, there's 2 guys got up, and they started to play bebop on the guitar. And my mouth dropped. I was like, oh, what is that? They were playing, Charlie Parker.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just was like, I got up, I went into the office. I said, I need to see my schedule. I crossed it all out, and I signed up for all the jazz.
Wow.
Improvisation. I mean, that's what I wanted. I wanted to play like that. So then I got into jazz, and I studied jazz really and played jazz up until, I don't know, for the next, into my 20s.
Damn. Did you play a lot in college? You went to Brown?
Yeah. I played in the jazz band and stuff. But then I got sucked into the rock band thing. See, then I got into this band, and, we started playing all this rock, and then I got back into that, and it was so visceral that I kind of...
That was in college?
Yeah. I started flying back into that early stuff, and we discovered psychedelia and Jimi Hendrix, and then I was a huge Hendrix. He was my first Jimmy. And I studied Hendrix, man. I used to lock myself in my parents' country house for days alone with just Hendrix, Jimmy and me. And I would watch it, videos, and I would sit there. All day I would sit there with my guitar. I'd go out and get some food, and then I'd come back, and I would try to get what the hell was he doing, What was he doing? I mean, it's a secret, magical thing.
How close did you get?
Well, after about 3 or 4 days of doing this and just copying every riff and watching, I remember this moment. It's a really interesting moment, actually, for me. It was like formative. But I was watching, I was like, God damn it. I don't know what I was trying to play, but maybe Voodoo Child or something. But I was watching Rainbow Bridge and standing in the living room with my Strat, wearing my Strat, just staring at it and going, what the hell? Why doesn't it sound like that? I'm playing it, I'm sort of getting it, but there's something missing. What is it? And as I watched Jimmy play, I just started playing like him, right? I started wiggling around, and you know how he would slam the guitar against his hip and, use it physically?
Yeah.
Like he had this whole, it was like another part of his body. It was his body, and he would play it with his body. And suddenly, when I started doing that, imitating him, being free with it and being physical with it, I'm telling you, Larry, suddenly I started to sound like him.
Wow.
Much more. And it was like a light bulb going off. It was like, bing. It's like, holy shit, this is it. You can't just play. It's like, this is getting back to the whole original thing we're talking about. There's other stuff that is important that is not immediately visible. It's like, if you are going to dig, if you are going to be the explorer, if you are going to go deep, man, if you're going to be the magician, you got to go there and you have to fight for it.
Yeah.
And you got to get deeper and deeper. And when you get deeper, you see something, another little door opens, Indiana Jones, and you follow that clue. And then there you get another door that's locked to you. And you got to fight until you find the clue to that one. Then that one opens, and now you're really in, it's kind of like that.
Yeah.
And when I realized that Jimmy's playing Hendrix's was so physical, and that there was no thought, he wasn't thinking about the next note. He wasn't creating little chord charts in his head. I've had people give me, here's a big chart of the neck, and here are the color coded where you can play in this mode and that mode, and forget about it. I don't think Jimi Hendrix was doing that. If you showed that to him, I don't know what the hell he would do. It just he'd probably be very polite, but I think he would just, light his joint with it.
Right.
It's smoke that. I don't know. I mean, it was so he skipped the brain part. The brain was in there, but it was like from his heart and his groin right to his fingers, man. And that was it.
Yeah.
And it was free.
Yeah.
And that's how you sound like Jimi Hendrix, if, with a lot of other stuff. But, I think that goes for anything. It's so interesting. But I learned a lot from that.
It's woodshedding, right? It's getting in there, like you said, with your instrument, whatever that is. We want to be a musician, whatever it is, and just working it. It's funny. I remember I grew up in a household where, the Beatles, Mozart, Beethoven, the Stones, the Who, that was all there. Jimmy, all there. So I knew the music, and I played guitar probably around the same time when I was 6. Started on acoustic, maybe a little earlier. And then my family, took us on a trip to London when I was probably 12 or 13, I guess, somewhere around there.
That was my first trip to London too, around that time.
Yeah, and this was 84, 5, something. And I remember staying up late. I got, stuck with the living room bed. But there was a TV, and it was I'm staying up late in a foreign country watching their TV. And the Jimmy at Monterey movie was on.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit, man. That's what's going on here. That's what I want to do. And we came back, and it wasn't long after I got a white Strat and my PV Backstage Plus, which is sitting over there. And and that was it, and took off. But
I studied that one too, Monterey.
Yeah.
That's great.
Crazy stuff going on in there. So when you got out of Brown, you played in bands at Brown. You came right back to the city and the music and the writing thing, or was it what was the track?
Well, there was a whole no, what I did actually is at Brown we had done this we had done it was my senior year. I'd already gone to London to study at the London School of Economics program before that, like for a semester, my senior year, weirdly. And then I came back to sort of finish off and graduate. And then I got pulled into doing this production of Hair, okay, which is very Hendrixy kind of playing, by the way.
Yeah, totally.
And it was a school production. However, it was a really good one. And everyone wanted to see this show. There were it just was sold out all the time. And it was such a great show with so much good energy that the show ended up going to Boston. We kept doing it.
Wow.
And even the kids who were still in school were coming up and they were finished their classes and hop a ride to Boston, which is only about, less than an hour from Providence, and do the show like 6 days a week. And that was my first job because I was graduating. So I was living in the, Hair house in Boston doing this thing. And then we thought that was going to go on tour because we had the original producers of Hair come and see it and they invested in it. That's how good the show was. Yeah. And one of the guys who was the producer and director, he's now has written several hits on Broadway. His name is David Yazbek. But anyway, after that, I went back to London. So I lived in London for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I got into, I played in bands, I did all sorts of crazy bands, ridiculous bands. And, I basically got on a plane with my guitar and that was what I did.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was a little nuts, but that was it. And that's when I started to write for the music press. And that was a whole other accident. But I'd already been a writer. I was already writing for money, in college. I was already doing that. My parents were writers.
They were writers. What'd they think of your musical aspirations?
Not much. They wanted me to be a writer, which is not much better to be. Here, be a writer. That's where the money is. Like, great.
Yeah.
Actually, for me, I was actually made a living as a writer, all to fund all my musical projects. Weirdly, it was just this weird thing, but I was able to make money as a freelance writer. But, they didn't really understand rock and roll or anything like that. My dad was more open-minded. My mother would, I'd have to lock her into the car to play my songs, let me out. But, she later came around. They both came around beautifully later, and they've been supportive, most of my life with that. But early on, it was like the alien in the house.
Yeah, imagine.
They were classical music people, and, my brother played violin and was a classical amazing violinist. And so that was much more they could understand that. But I was a bit of a weird, how do we get that thing in the house? Who is that? What does the milkman look like? I don't know. But, no, it was, yeah. But later on, they loved it. They'd come to shows all the time.
That's great. That's great.
My mother still comes to shows sometimes. We drag her, but she comes.
I think she may have been at the Gramercy show that I came to.
She probably was.
I think Bob told me that actually.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Dressing room. Cool. Eat the hospitality.
Right.
Can I have a sandwich? Give her a sandwich.
How has this thing changed your life? How has the guitar changed your life?
Well, let me count the ways. I don't know. This Lez Zeppelin thing totally derailed whatever normality I would have had in my life. It could have completely derailed it, which is great. It's fine. But it just kind of took over. If you had said to me, "Oh yeah, Steph, you're gonna basically be Jimmy Page for 16 years and go all over the world playing Jimmy's riffs and being in a Zeppelin band," I would have looked at you like, "No, what?" It would have been unfathomable to me. So it's really kind of you never know in life. But it changed my life in a lot of ways. It'd be hard to summarize it, but my whole, a lot of my purview on just playing and what it is to perform and what it is to even, the whole gender issue of male players, female play, all of that stuff really came under scrutiny, all because of this band. What is female sexuality? What is male sexuality? Things like that. I mean, there were academic papers have been written about Lez Zeppelin. It's really very interesting. It has all sorts of depths and other adjoining areas that we could talk about for a long time.
Yeah.
That I never really had occurred to me in this way, or it just brought to light lots of things. It became a sort of bigger than it was intended, for sure. Not just popularity-wise, but just in terms of concept and in terms of, gender bending and what it means and all of that stuff. It's very interesting.
Did they do covers in their day? And I don't mean like blues covers and stuff like that, but did they do stuff? And if they did, is that something you guys have ever thought of, like throwing in a curveball into a set? Throwing in a Hendrix tune?
Yeah. Well, we have done that, but we've definitely done that and Cream tunes. So we've come up with stuff. But of course, all of Led Zeppelin's performances, from the beginning, like, for example, when they would do A Whole Lot of Love, they would go into a half an hour of just jamming from song to song of cool, influential cover tunes that they did, blues stuff and early rock and roll stuff. And they definitly did that.
Because I don't think in the two shows
their entire first album was covers.
Well, right. But I've only seen I've only seen you guys twice, right? Twice, maybe 3 times. But I don't remember any covers in that.
We may have not done that, but I think I don't know.
And I asked just because it's like, because the Zepp thing is so good, that I'm kind of like, oh, let's see where else it goes.
Oh yeah. Well, we have done concerts, where those things have been worked into, Dazed and Confused. There's, I forget the name, but there's that song, Are You Going to San Francisco with the Flowers? There's all of that in the middle of Dazed and Confused. I'm sorry, I'm bad with names, but there's all sorts of stuff that we would pull in because they did it in that particular concert. Mm-hmm. But, if you're doing physical graffiti, you just kind of stick to the album. But yeah, there's in jams like that, we have done it. And, again, not exactly the way they do it, because that would sort of be, it was a jam, right? So to copy their jam is a little bit, sounds too on
the nose.
Too much brain damage.
Yeah.
But also just beside the point a little bit.
Having gone so deep in their musicality, knowing as much as you do about gear and guitars and all that kind of stuff and the recording process with them, what's the biggest misconception out there for players that are trying to learn their stuff? That you're like, it's like, what's the song that sounds the easiest but is actually the most difficult?
Right. Well, that's interesting because, having done a couple of records now as well, first of all, there are maybe 2 things. I'm sure I'll think of a third. But the first thing that you realize, especially if you're trying to get Jimmy's sound, and especially if you're recording in particular, there is very little effect on anything. I mean, this is not modern guitar shredding. There is no distortion that lets you take your right hand off the guitar and just, tap with your left hand and massive sounds come out at 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
No. I mean, this is work. notes. It's very rockabilly. Notes are picked. These lines are played, and there's no help from an overdriven guitar amp. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You realize that when you try to match sounds. So that's one thing. Like, to get his sound, you have to play the instrument, and you also have to work with the tone of the guitar, because that's really what he did a lot, especially live. It's like there's not a lot of pedals. There's a wah, there's a phase 90, there's maybe a Roger Mayer Octavia, which is used on very little, if anything, and maybe a boost, a tuner. That's about it. You know what I'm saying? Generally speaking.
Yeah.
And so it's really about how you play the guitar with tone, volumes, moving it around. There's all of that. But the other thing is that I think about Jimmy, and he probably would say this more, he's said it a lot of times. You think that there are all of these things going on when you listen to it, but really, the easiest way to play it is the way that Jimmy's going to play it. It's not, you can't overthink it. If there's an easy way to play it, that's how it's played. I've had people try to show me, like, this is how Stairway goes, and they're jumping all over the neck. It's like, no. He would never do that. I mean, it's just, it's simpler than you think.
Right.
But, and it's all how you play it. But, I think, you could talk about something that sounds really, really hard, like, Achilles' Last Stand, and it is technically, you have to be at a certain level to play any of this stuff.
Yeah.
Like Song Remains the Same. If you can't play at a certain level, you're not really going to be able to play that. But once you can, those songs are woodshedding. You get it down, you practice it. They're fast, sure, but you can practice it and you can get that. What's a lot harder are songs like Since I've Been Loving You. Okay? Or even a song like Babe, which is finger picking and which is dynamic and which is naked, or a Rain song. It's all there and you're playing it alone, and it's all about how it builds and how it's dynamic and how you play it in a beautiful way. That is a lot harder than trying to, play something like Song Remains the Same, which is so fast, or something like that. Or, Hot's On for Nowhere, which I love playing. I love playing Hot's On. But coming from a jazz background, it's easy to play that kind of feel. But it's also, it's fun because you got all these riffs and they're going fast and we're laughing and giggling. But, it's a lot harder to play the solo and Since I've Been Loving You and really unleash it and bare your soul and cry to the world and take them with you.
Yeah.
That's harder.
All right, we're gonna go in the lightning round here. You ready?
Okay.
We're gonna start bringing it home now, Steph.
Okay, good, because I've been babbling for a long time. People are gonna start throwing tomatoes.
I'll hit you with some simple ones. Favorite Zap album?
Oy. Thanks a lot. Well, I will say that Physical Graffiti was my dream to do it live. So I do love that one. I do love it. That's up there. But I love Led Zeppelin 1 too, because it is the sort of roar of the lion right out of the gate, Mm-hmm. And it's such a beautiful, spontaneous album. I just, and having recorded it, I deeply appreciate it. So I would say, can I have two?
You can have two. I'll give you two.
Thanks.
Since you mentioned the other Jimmy, favorite Hendrix album?
Oh, here's really cruel.
It gets better. Just wait. I got a zinger for you at the end here.
I don't know. Can I put Electric Lady in front of Are You Experienced? I don't know. I suppose since Are You Experienced is one of my favorite songs, maybe I'll go with that.
Okay. Fair enough. All right, here's the last one. You ready?
Uh-oh, yeah.
I don't know if you know this, but I have the ability to set up a lunch with you and Jimmy Page. And
Okay.
I'm curious if I set this up, right, what's on your agenda? What are the topics? You get them all to yourself. You get a great bottle of red wine.
He doesn't drink.
He doesn't drink. Well, then you drink. You're going to need to drink before this thing.
I don't want to alienate him.
Okay. You get them all to yourself.
Yeah.
You get a couple of hours. What's on the agenda? What do you want to know? What do you want to talk about? What do you want to cover?
Basically, where's the nearest hotel? That was a joke. It was a partial joke.
Partial joke.
Well, after we figured out what we were going to order for lunch, that might take a while. Gosh, I think I have been in the room with Jimmy a bunch of times trying to figure out what to even talk about, because there's so much to really talk about that you're almost tongue-tied. But I guess I would just, talk about playing and I don't know. I have to think about this.
Do you want to pick his brain about gear, particular things? Hey man, I'm trying to work out this part in physical graffiti.
Not.
No.
I wouldn't talk about that at all. I would not. I actually would be more likely to talk about, I don't know, William Blake or something. I might steer clear of guitars altogether unless he really wanted to talk about it. I would be more interested in talking to him to just about, people who influenced him, or, books, or, I know something about some of his other interests, maybe about stuff like that.
Yeah.
Only because, and if he wanted to share stuff with me, I think that would be okay. But I almost feel like, I don't know, secrets of his guitar this or his guitar that. I don't know that. I think there's a kind of understanding, that's for me to figure out.
Yeah.
I do.
No, I like this answer. This is great.
I mean, he could tell me what amps he used on this or that. But, everyone knows anyway.
Right, exactly.
Pretty much. And there are certain secrets I can ask, and he probably wouldn't want to tell me.
Yeah.
Like, how did you play this? Oh, I'm not telling you that. Because it's a secret and fine and great.
Yeah.
You figured that out.
Right.
And I respect that. It's almost more fun if I can try to get it right,
Yeah.
But I think I would just be interested in him as an artist. And I'd want to spend time talking about, I don't know, books he liked, or poets, or paintings he liked, or places, or maybe his favorite show, or favorite wild thing, that he did or something. Or
yeah,
so that would be more interesting to me.
Did you see It Might Get Loud?
I'd ask him if I could borrow his dragon suits, though. I would ask that.
Where do you get your suits from?
No, I have 2 or 3 suits that were made for me.
They're awesome.
Yeah, they are. Her name is Judith Nakdeman, and she lives in Michigan. And she used to design theater costumes, but she's someone who used to be very close. And she made me 3 amazing suits. She may have made more, but I still wear them. They're great. And again, it was a riff off of his suits. It was not a copy of his suit, just like the band. It was magical and cool and reminiscent, but not exactly the same by any means.
Yeah.
Did
you see the film It Might Get Loud several years ago?
Yes.
I would like to go and spend time in that room with all the guitars.
Yeah.
I'd just with him. That's it. That's how I'd like to spend the time.
Did you go to the Met? Did you go to the Met?
I didn't make it.
Because they were all there.
I didn't make it.
Yeah.
I know, man.
Right.
But yeah, that room was pretty cool. I'd like to go up in there with him and just oh, look at this one, Larry. You'll fancy that one.
Yeah. Oh, I know. They were. I know. They were in awe.
It was a pretty cool show.
It was pretty cool.
You talked. Didn't you give a talk or something?
I did. It was just amazing. It was one of the
footage. Is there footage of that? Can people find that?
You know what? The Met supposedly recorded it, and I've been trying to get it from them. I have not given up, but I don't know. I haven't gotten it from them yet. But there is some raw footage of our performance. I'm sure somebody recorded it. I just don't know who recorded the interview.
All right. We're going to end it on this one then.
Okay.
Okay. So you guys, right. I mean, I should have led off with this fucking question, Larry, but I'm going to end it with this question.
Fine.
You guys played the Met at their thing, representing Zeppelin, basically.
Basically.
And then you gave this talk. So how did it feel to do something like that?
I'll tell you what, Larry, okay. Next to Jimmy coming to see us play, which was pretty intense for me, that was the scariest, most intense gig ever, because that's exactly right. The gravity of what you just said, I got completely. It was like the Met just called. They want us to play at the Met in the auditorium as part of the Play It Loud exhibit, which basically has the greatest instruments of rock and roll on display. It was the third most attended exhibition in the history of the Metropolitan Museum of Art, I learned later. And all of Jimmy's stuff was there. I mean, basically, Jimmy Page was the maestro. He was the formidable presence at that exhibit, which is why they thought to ask us as a Led Zeppelin group to represent, because his stuff he had more stuff there than anybody else. Mm. So not only did they ask Led Zeppelin, but then I was standing on the stage of the Met with all the guitars. Now, they were my guitars, not his, because you can't take his out of the, But I had the same guitars. So I went from one to the next talking about what these guitars were used on, what they sounded like, why I liked them, on behalf of basically Jimmy, in a weird sort of way, as his representative. Well, here's what he used on this and this and that. And then we played for an hour so that I could demonstrate them.
You got a full hour in.
Yeah.
Nice.
And it was, I mean, the gravity of this was not lost on me. I just thought, oh my God, I don't know whatever I've done to deserve this, but I was deeply, deeply honored to be able to do that and to have been chosen by the Met. After I was, after the show, the curator came over, and all the Met people, they were so lovely and so organized and the curator came in. He had organized the whole exhibit, and he loved it. He just said, "Oh my God, that was beyond what we thought." He was so excited. They all just loved it. They weren't really expecting it, and I said to him, I said, gosh, we were so honored. This means so much. What made you think to, reach out to us? Can I ask that, And he looked at me and goes, oh, well, Jimmy told us about you. And I just stared at him. And I was like, Jimmy? Again, this was one of those moments when I was just sort of, no. And he's like, yeah. I go, when he was here, he told us about you. And I just thought, no, he's lying. And then I thought, well, why would he lie? I don't know. Why would the curator be lying to me in the dressing room? Like, there's got to be a good reason he's lying. I mean, I couldn't come up, Yeah. I don't think he was lying. I guess it was true, but that was even better.
Wow. I mean, I was going to hit you with one more, but that's a pretty good one to end on. Do the rest of the girls in the band, women in the band, do they share in your deep love for all things Zeppelin?
Well, if they didn't at first, they do now. They either
They fucking better.
they either love it or hate it. I don't know. You're going to have to ask them.
Yeah.
But they certainly do. And, it's interesting because in the various lineups, and I think this is the strongest, not everyone has been so deeply into Led Zeppelin to begin with. It's been a little bit of a learning experience in terms of getting deep into the vibe of it and stuff. I mean, Lisa has always been into John by Me. She knew what she was walking into and loved it to death. So it's not so with her. But, I think the more that the girls have immersed themselves and gotten so sort of amazed by the depth of this music and the depth of the playing and the challenges that they're presented with, they love it. They love it, absolutely love it, and they love playing it. And so they couldn't do it if they didn't.
Yeah.
You'd see them looking bored or something, but no, they love it.
Again,
I'm for them. You could ask them.
No, but again, that's what I was saying before, right? Like you got to be able to bring it.
Yeah.
And if you don't, because it's particularly in this thing, because every part of this band, I mean, Robert Plant ain't hiding behind a guitar or much else, right? So Marlene, she's got to bring it, and she brings all of herself out.
Right. And she loves about it too.
Yeah.
And the fact that we all play together, when we're commuting, that is what Led Zeppelin did, you see. That was a very big, important part of what they did live. And we do what they did live. We don't replicate the records on stage. It's impossible with 4 people anyway. But that's what they did. They played with each other. They spoke to each other musically. And that's the fun. That's what everyone loves. Yeah. And we can go over and we can get in each other and throw riffs at each other and make each other laugh or get deep into it so that we're all involved in this emotional moment. I mean, that's it, Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the highest form.
Beautiful stuff, Steph. Beautiful stuff. Thank you for joining me on this today. And I'm glad we could do it. Yeah.
Pleasure, Larry, as always. And your trailer is great. Larry's done. You'll see it. But yes.
Some point.
Larry Milburn. Yeah. Yes. It's out there. A little bit at a time. You're a great editor and filmer. You got to come again and do more.
I definitely want to come again. Yeah, Steph. Thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate you. I can't wait to come see you guys live again real soon. We're going to make it happen. Guys, stay tuned. Next week, we got episode 171 with production manager, systems engineer, and audio engineer, Mr. Sean Sullivan's going to be on the show. Coming up. During the week, you can follow us at Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify. All is Roadie Free Radio. Check out the website, roadiefreeradio.com, and send me a note. I want to hear from you. That's info@roadiefreeradio.com. And my friends, in the meantime, y'all be safe out there. No roadies, no rock and roll.